second interview on the Silver Psyop. Joining us tonight is the one and only Mr. David Quintieri of The Money GPS, author of The Money GPS and the new book, Global Economic Collapse. Thank you very much for joining us. David, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much for having me on.
No, it is my pleasure. I have a lot of people here that I know are anxious to get some answers to these types of questions that I know you are well versed in facing. So, but before we get into that, I just want to also kind of get the audience to know a little bit about you and kind of maybe what you were like and how you got to where you are today. So, I'm going to start off with what was your favorite hobby, sport, or game as a kid and now?
So I've always been the type of person to be sort of, let's say, a trailblazer or somebody who can go on their own and do things. You know, I never really needed that support. Some people are generally the type of followers and they'll just, get in line like sheep. And then there's other people who I'm sure many of the people listening, they simply just want to do their own thing and they want to know the truth maybe, and they want to be independent. So that's how I always was when I was younger, and even more so now. And this all started by me reading into first psychology type books, and then after that I got into the financial, and very quickly, right from the beginning, I was interested in the Austrian economics. And Austrian economics really made the most sense to me. But I'm not somebody who just believes in any sort of, any belief system. I want to know all about it. I want to read it from different people. I want to watch videos on it. I want to see the proof and the evidence, and I want to investigate myself. So that's what I did. I read countless books. I read books from the Austrian economics world, but I've also read many others too. I like to get the opposing thoughts as well. I don't want to just listen to what I'm interested in, because then you never get the other side. So, of course, I read many books. Along the way, I decided to warn my friends and family of exactly what was happening. And I saw this global economic collapse, which was taking place at the same time it's being hidden from everybody. We're all waiting for a sort of a big event. However, I feel that the global economic collapse is already underway. That's the way I see it. So, of course, these friends and family, unfortunately, did not, they really didn't listen to me. So I said, you know what, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to make it so convincing, and I'm going to reference basically everything in here. There's going to be tons of references. So I included 222 references in my first book, and I thought it was very convincing. There's a whole list of things in there that I talked about that have come true already today, which I mentioned in the second book, but they didn't really think too much of it. So I decided to create a YouTube channel, and with the YouTube channel, I figured now I'm able to get into the people that are actually like-minded and want to know the truth, that are interested in this information to begin with, and I could start from there. So that's really how this all came to be.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's kind of how I ended up. I've been like a bit of a lurker on YouTube for the last 6 or 7 years, kind of just feeling my way through the space. And yeah, I found out that just because these people are miles and miles away, they actually have more common with some of these strangers than I do with the people that I socialize with at my family events and stuff like that. So I can totally see eye to eye with you there on that one. That was a really good answer. So basically that kind of answers my next question a little bit as well. That's kind of what your motivation was, I guess, is that in your search for freedom, I guess, all roads lead down the same path, as they say, and you follow the money, and this is where you kind of got. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Absolutely. I mean, I wanted to know the truth. I mean, the truth hurts, and that's a simple fact. So I've decided to just, what do I have to do to prepare? This is the steps I need to take, and I need to get there as quick as possible, because of course things just
started to come around at all for you?
No, in fact, it's definitely quite the opposite.
Oh, that's too bad.
Coming from Toronto, you hear this meme that is portrayed. Everybody believes that housing prices will go up indefinitely, and that's the type of thing that I talk about, because so much debt is surrounding this housing bubble that we're experiencing right now, and nobody wants to believe it. Why? Because they're in a lot of debt. They would be really crushed should this become a problem for them. So they're going to feel it, and it's just a matter of fact. It has to change at some point. Something has to change, or people will be in extreme rates of poverty. I mean, that's just the way it is. They're not going to be able to buy a house, but at the same time, rents are at an all-time record high. So where are they going?
Yeah, exactly. And actually, I kind of, being an hour and a half down the 401 from Toronto, we're starting to feel like the dilution effect almost of how the GTA is expanding, and those people that are now selling for 70-80% profit, or on top of their home that they paid 15-20 years ago, now they're moving to my area and paying me 40% of what I paid 3 years ago. And I mean, you sort of see it unfolding, like literally in front of our faces, and it can't go on forever, right?
That's a fact. I mean, they're keeping interest rates extremely low for this historic length of time, and this is obviously something that's just not sustainable. They believe it is, and they're going ahead with that. However, it causes a massive distortion within the economy. People are going to be working forever. As long as they're physically able to work, they're going to have to work. Not that they want to work, but they'll have to work because they're going to be carrying so much debt. It's going to be no different than what we see in Japan right now, when you have 100-year mortgages. I mean, that's where we're headed right now, and it doesn't seem like there's any way else out of this.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to allude here too. You brought up one of John Maynard Keynes' quotes in the bail-ins and capital control section. By continuing process of inflation, governments can confiscate secretly an unobserved important part of the wealth of their citizens. I mean, it's literally in black and white on paper for the Keynesian mindset that they are there to steal every bit they can before any of us even realize that it's ever happened. And I think that that's probably why, you started to build a great foundation for investing outside of these systems, things that they can't get their hands on, which I don't know if you did it intentionally, but the next chapter was right into precious metals and that type of thing, and then also right into the geopolitics and the globalist situation. Was that intentional to kind of end that section 2 in there with precious metals?
That's a fact, because you try, as an author, you try to basically give them a step-by-step sort of. You don't want to give them the information. For example, that precious metals prior, you want it to lead into somewhere. So obviously people want a solution. And while precious metals are just one piece of the puzzle, I believe it's important to have some. And we need some sort of foundation. Without, the system is running wild right now. There's no reason for all assets to be rising. Basically every sector is rising. And you look at that, and then you compare that to people's wages, they're not rising at all. In fact, they're declining when you look at the real, in real terms. So people are looking for a solution, and hopefully they will be able to see what the reality is.
Yeah, as you can tell, my personal preference being not a wealthy individual per se. I'm wealthy in love and family and all the good stuff, that's for sure. But I chose silver because, it's, as you've outlined and many other people have shown the clear math, that it's, just the natural ratio to gold is wrong. So the fundamentals in the market are clearly manipulated, which is now actually with the what's his name there, David Liu, they're coming out and admitting to all the rigging on the CFTC while they were investigating. All this stuff's finally starting to come out a little bit. So for us regular Joes, we
time it goes into its close, and then the opening price. In between there is a manipulation, and they actually said you could make a fortune just betting on that. That's how overreaching this manipulation is.
That's crazy. Even Andy Hoffman, he likes to point out, like, he pretty much tracks it daily, right? So he's got it like 97% on the silver manipulation anyways of the times, 3 or 4 different times during the day where it's hit every day almost, it's so blatant that, well, I mean, they know they hold power, so that actually kind of leads me into the globalist section in the book there, and a personal situation that I wanted to bring up. I'm not sure if you were quite aware of, but recently, Mr. Ray Tange, who's the former CEO and president of TMMC, Toyota Motor Manufacturing Corp., was appointed to a public position, which was shortly their, liaison to a trip to Japan to all the lovely flowers and fun stuff that our politician, Mrs. Kathleen Wynne, got to enjoy. Shortly thereafter, they implemented a non-unionized auto worker policy that we no longer have the same amount of sick days as every other employee in Ontario. So, as that's kind of exactly what a globalist agenda is, kind of, right, isn't it?
The globalist agenda is basically to make everyone under the control of the few, and they do so through these conglomerate corporations. They do so by, I would say, blurring the lines in between what is government and what is corporations. And that's the way it's always been. But if you look in the more recent past, it's really taking off. And they use this term globalization, and it sounds wonderful. I mean, yeah, globalization, this is great, free trade, that sounds good. If you're against it, then all of a sudden, you seem bad. But people don't actually understand what goes into these. It's not wonderful. There's no real free trade. I mean, you try to buy something in a different country and bring it into your country, you're going to be paying. It's not free trade for you and I. That's not the way this is, and that's really unfortunate. Globalization is basically a global governance, or should we take it one step further and say global government? Well, you're not allowed to say that, of course, but essentially that's where we're going. We're headed towards a unification of the government structure. Now, you may not have one central dictator ruling it all. That they don't need to do that. They just simply need to be controlled by a small set of people. That's the way this is, and we're going towards that. I mean, we already have the G20, we have the IMF and the World Bank, and practically the whole world is influenced by these organizations, supranational entities. So that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, certainly I can certainly agree with you there on all those points. It certainly has spiraled. It's gone from pretty much covert to overt, right? I mean, especially with these the new banks or central banks and stuff starting to buy up the SDRs and whatnot, which is currencies that have not been implemented yet. So obviously they're up to something. Now I know Russia. Vladimir Putin came out a week or 2 ago. I think it was last week, and he basically was just talking about the upcoming financial changes. Where do you stand on? What's your opinion on the Russian point of view? I mean, do you think that they're on the side of honest money, or they seem? Because actually, I think it was they just the Russian ruble was the highest performing currency under the Bitcoin this year. So, what are your thoughts on that?
So what I'm seeing with Russia is twofold. If we look at just the surface level information, we can see that, to me anyway, it looks like they're trying to bring in more freedom than some of the countries in the West. And then you have to factor, what's really going on here? Is this really happening? Is the West becoming the new sort of enemy, and Russia's becoming sort of the good guy? And I think it's a lot more complicated than that. We can see the rhetoric that's being formed here, and I would say that to some degree, Russia is trying to expand their markets. They're trying to do deals with Europe. They're trying to obviously expand with China. And we can see the BRIC alliance, which has formed. prior, unless we see a significant drop in the price of oil yet again. But if in the meantime they can get more of an alliance with China, which they're already practically number one partners, they need to basically expand on that in order to have more stability. And China is a big consumer, so the more that they can deal with them, the better it is for Russia and also for China as well. So I think that's very important for them. In terms of, they recently mentioned that they want to go and invest into the blockchain. They want to get into different cryptocurrencies. They spoke with the creator of Ethereum. And all of this is very bullish, first of all, for cryptocurrencies. At the same time, it shows you that Russia wants to make their system stronger, better. They're building for the future. They're willing to do deals. They're not closed off. They're not being isolationist. And I think that's all good. Now, on a deeper level, like if we're going to go deeper beyond politics, I think that a lot of this is a little bit, we're seeing a show, a movie being played for us, because ultimately those who control the world, I don't see them as necessarily having any particular country in mind, and that's just the way it is. They don't have necessarily any sort of, they don't see borders, they don't see any of what you would call countries or alliances or anything else. They will take advantage of any country, and they will do so at everyone's expense.
Yeah, that's one thing that history has definitely continued to show us of these individuals and their the bloodlines that they continue to feed. It's interesting. One thing that stood out is, when you mentioned, you alluded to the past of the austerity and then the banks and the bail-ins and this time was a bail-in to the Banco Popular, and basically it's like economic terrorism, like you point out again in the book. But even on that level, it's like the banks themselves are almost helpless, because when the IMF steps in, it's like, do you think really this bank stood up and said, yeah, we're going to buy this debt because we want it? It's kind of like, look, you guys kind of have to buy this or else we're all done, right? Like, they kind of have to work together to continue this fraud, right?
I would take it even one step further and suggest to you that, in fact, they're all one and the same. You don't have a multi-billion-dollar bank without being connected at the highest levels. It just doesn't happen. So I would suggest that the IMF, the World Bank, they all work together with the other banking establishments, whether it is, let's say JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, anyone. They're all of these financial institutions are operating based on what they get their orders from the higher powers, the central bankers and the technocrats and all of them. They're all working against us. So they use their minions of the system. They'll talk to the CEO or the president of one of these particular companies and suggest, look, this is the way it's going to be. This is what you have to do. And he gives the orders to those under him. That's just the way it works. It's a compartmentalized system. Nobody, even at relatively high levels, I'm sure they don't fully understand the system. They're just getting their big paycheck, $100 million a year. They're happy to keep their mouth shut, and they live on their private islands and have their private jets and everything else. Why ask questions? And that's just the way it is.
Yeah, I guess as long as they continue to change the laws to very basically just says spend and increase debt, because like you said, you're going to get your bonuses, then the debt will be publicized and the profits will be privatized. So basically what I've started to do with the addition to my silver is, and again, since I don't have a whole lot of money, I look to the cryptocurrencies to try and get on the right side of this wealth transition that is definitely taking place. I'm smart enough to see it. I just was not smart enough to prepare ahead of time, really. So I got into a few things. Initially, I did some Ripple, and it went crazy. I don't like Ripple necessarily, but I was able to turn, a very, very modest investment into, I have like 7 Ethereum coins now. So Ethereum seems to be a better blockchain and sound technology. But what are your thoughts on the craziness in the crypto world right now?
I think that's running red hot right now. I mean, I'm a fan of, let me back up for a moment. I'm a fan of anything that suggests that the government are in control and they need to start losing control. I don't like the central banks. I don't like the government structure. I don't like what it does for people. It's simply there to steal liberty from people. That's the reason we have these big governments. Not government in general, but let's say big governments, which are, goes for all governments now. And so cryptocurrencies, even if they were somehow controlled by the banking establishments or the governments, at least the rhetoric is there saying this is sort of an anti-government tool. That right there to me says it all. So I think it's positive to say it like that. In terms of their performance, I think we have gone a little too hot right now. In fact, way too hot. I would have liked to have seen it when it hit 2,000. I would have liked to have seen it come down at least 500 points in Bitcoin. Unfortunately, it didn't. It basically has skyrocketed ever since. I'd like to see those pullbacks, and it doesn't take much, of course, because the market is relatively small compared to the other financial instruments. But what we're looking at here is a lot of people being interested in cryptocurrencies in general, so they're throwing their money in. What's good news is that they haven't had any form of, let's say, it's not a stock, it's not a ETF. We're talking about the currencies themselves. When they can, have a stock or an ETF, you're talking about trading on their markets, and that's bad news. I don't like that. I think that would be a very bad thing, although they're trying to push the ETF, and I think that's a bad idea. I think this should be left on the markets, which are controlled by these private establishments. So I think it's something that people need to think about. Also, at the same time, we could talk about the fact that they are looking at, for example, Coinbase as they're trying to get people's information from Coinbase, and you can see the government pushing hard for that. And I think ultimately they might get that. Whether or not they'll do anything with that information, I don't know. However, I think that people need to take their money or their Bitcoin or their whatever digital currency you have and take it off of the exchanges. I mean, you might have a little bit. I mean, if you're going to be trading that or something. But if this is your sort of savings, or you're going to keep it there for a little while, you got to pull it off the markets. And that's just the way it is. That's another topic, but I think that's important because the government knows about Bitcoin. They don't understand it, which I think is a little bit funny, but they need to, at some point, they're going to have to, let's just say, intervene, because people are making a lot of money and the government isn't getting their cut, and that is upsetting them big time. So I think that people need to be aware of this.
That's a great point. Yeah, they're definitely panicking a little bit because, like you said, they have no idea how it's even working. So, and they weren't smart enough to hire anybody to even try to prepare about it. I guess that's probably the only weakness that the deep state system in the world has, is the arrogance that they come with. But yeah, I'm terrified of an ETF for Bitcoin or anything like that, because I mean it's the definition of fraud again, right? Because what are they trading? It's nothing. They're betting on nothing really, essentially. I mean, for me, the allure of a cryptocurrency like Bitcoin is that it's capped and you can't bet on it because it's completely free, so far as a free market is concerned. I mean, and once people grasp that, we work every day for fiat dollars, and we're exchanging our time for these things. So, do we really want everybody along the way taking a piece out of it? Like we're forced to use a bank who forces us to pay fees. We can't have a job without a bank. I mean, and we've just detailed several different points of how these banks are specifically designed to steal our wealth. So, I mean, that's why I like cryptos. So ETF to me, bad news. I hope it stays away.
Agreed.
So I didn't want to keep you too long tonight. One of the best parts about this new book is when you start to talk about democracy and the legal bribes, and really in the detailing of Barack Obama's campaigning, and then the results after the financial crisis and all that stuff is absolutely says it all, basically, as far as, you know, where the political system of the United States stands. And it's very sad and disheartening to think that, you know, nobody's really still not paying much attention to that stuff. So I kind of wanted to ask you, what if I was someone today that hasn't even thought of silver, I haven't thought of cryptocurrencies, I've got my lifetime savings in an RSP, which was already kicked down 20-30% 8-10 years ago. I mean, what do I do? I finally have opened my eyes. Now I've read the Money GPS, and I say, man, this guy, he's really trying to help me, and I've been a fool. What should I do first?
Well, the first point is that you're not too late, and that is the best part. What I would suggest is that do not put all your eggs into one basket. We've all heard that before, and people tend not to do so. You need to diversify as much as possible. That's what I get into in my new book in particular, where I really stress to people to spread your wealth. Even if it's a very small amount, you should still be spreading it wide, because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what they'll do with the manipulation. We know it is a fact that they're manipulating the markets, and that goes for every market. They manipulate it on the way up, they manipulate others on the way down. Case in point, look at gold, look at silver. More people own gold and silver today than they did, let's say, 5 years ago. But what has happened to the price? It hasn't gone up in relation to the amount of physical precious metals that have been purchased. Absolutely not. What about all the central banks continuously buying tons and tons of gold? Doesn't matter, because the price has stayed the same. Does that mean that other people have been selling? No. It means that the paper markets are manipulated, and you see a price on your screen and you think that's what my gold and silver is. No. That's the futures markets. That's a whole bunch of garbage, and we don't need to pay attention to it. What we need to pay attention to is our own savings, our own wealth that we have, even if it's just a few dollars. So I think that people need to, first of all, understand that. Don't worry about what prices you see on the screen. Those are fake. Now, ultimately, if you wanted to go trade them in later, that's something you need to worry about, there's no doubt. But I don't think that people should be selling their gold and silver. I think that is something more beneficial to pass wealth on through generations. That's what many of the cultures of the East do. They have even high-carat jewelry. They have gold coins. They give them at weddings and special engagements, where you give that wealth and you keep the wealth in your family. And I think that is a very, very good thing, because you'll continuously pass it down. Try keeping the cash under your mattress and see how far that money goes. I assure you, if your grandparents kept that cash under their mattress, those couple nickels that they've been saving for 20 years, it's not going to do much for you, I assure you. So that's the type of thing that people need to also be aware of. So I would say, number one, have silver. Silver is very, very cheap. Even if you wanted to get bullion, silver bullion, it's still very cheap. So that's one thing. You need to get different types of silver. So even diversification, even within the asset class. So many people, they go out there, they just buy Silver Eagles, Maple Leafs, one or the other, depending on what you like. But that's not diversified enough. You need to get as many different coins or bullion. You need to get those bars, whatever. I think the smaller the better, personally, although you do pay a little bit of extra. I personally think small is better. Absolutely. So you would then look into what they call junk or common coins. These cryptocurrencies are essential to have, because they are, number one, if anybody's worried about confiscation, you'll never need to worry about that because it's technically still currency. So you can have that, but the actual value of the silver inside of it is very good. So that's something that you should always get. You can buy bags of it from different retailers that sell this, so you can get that from there. I think having some of that at least is a very beneficial thing, particularly in a collapse scenario. You can use it as sort of a normal currency, but you can also use it to store value. I think that's important. Now, gold. People are thinking, look, I don't have $1,000. I can't afford gold. It's just not going to happen. But you can buy fractional gold as well. You can get small amounts, 1/10 of an ounce. You can get that, and I think that is a good idea. For those who are not sophisticated at all, and they're just, I can't see the value in buying a gold bar and just having it sit there. I can't see a value in that. Well, I would even suggest to some people that maybe, a high carat jewelry would be something that sort of a middle ground where, you're not going to get anywhere near the bullion value of it, but at least it's some wealth that can be passed down. That would be definitely in the, let's say, the last line, but I think it's definitely better than what many people buy, all these silly things that, are worthless later down the road. I'd rather seeing you buy some jewelry or maybe some silverware or something. I think that's a much better idea. And in terms of cryptocurrencies, you can get in with as much money as you have. You can buy small fractions of it, and then you can accumulate, let's say, even a few dollars every week if you really wanted to. So I think that's a great way to do it. In terms of which cryptocurrencies, at this time, I think you'll probably see more stability with Bitcoin, but there are many new ones coming onto the market every day, and I think many of them will probably not be around in the future. I think that's the way it's going. I think a lot of them will just come on and they'll be replaced later down the road. So that's the concern. I think the stability lies with Bitcoin, but of course Ethereum obviously showing promise. The only thing I don't like about Ethereum is the fact that some of the banking establishments have commented how they like it. So that right there threatens everything about it and scares me. But I do think it's probably a better system than Bitcoin is. While Bitcoin is much more simplified, I think that Ethereum has the complexity in a good way. So I would say that as well. There are many others, even Tezos, which is coming online soon, that might be good. I don't know enough about it, and I think it's still shrouded in mystery at this point. But that would be it. In terms of other preparations, look, you need to get your stuff in order. If your money, your savings, is in your RRSP or 401k, well, then I wish you well. That's about as far as I'm willing to go, because I don't want to see anything bad happening, but the government, even in many cases, has told people that the chances are you're not going to have this, your pensions and everything else. You have to do your own savings, because we're not going to be able to give you those payments, old age security and everything else at a later time. I mean, they've admitted that in certain cases, while saying you need to invest in your own retirement account so that you can have wealth later on. I think it is simply a way for more money to be pushed into the system. Ultimately, they will take it from people, just as they've done in many areas around the world. They did it in Portugal. They've done it to some degree in Detroit. I believe it was also Texas, where pension funds are stolen. We're seeing it happening. Do you need it to happen to you before you realize, I just made a big mistake? Don't do that. Be prepared now. That's the way it is.
Yeah, that's very well said, man. I could not put it better myself. Before I let you go, I just wanted to pass this by you on. I'm going to send some people over to your YouTube channel, and the first person to comment on any of your videos saying that they've sent from me is going to be the person who wins the copy of the Money GPS. Would you be willing to help me out with that and let me know when that happens?
Absolutely. I'll take a look and I'll monitor that. So congrats to whoever wins that.
Awesome. I really appreciate the interview, David, and all the hard work that you put in. You've been a big part in my personal journey, and I hope that you continue to let everyone know what's inside of your brain and what you're thinking.
Thank you very much. It's really appreciated.
Right on, David. Well, you take care, and hopefully I'll talk to you again in the future.